Hello, I'm Kristy Allen, and you're listening to the Tsunami of Truth podcast here on jmcbroadcasting.com. Today, we are dissecting the high-stakes, low-blow world of modern diplomacy, where the primary language spoken is passive aggression. To kick things off, let's look at a quote from Winston Churchill. "Success," he said, "is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts," unquote. And it's a lovely sentiment, but these days it feels like the only thing continuing is the sheer unadulterated awkwardness between 10 Downing Street and the White House. The UK and the US have spent decades bragging about their special relationship, but lately it is looking less like a powerhouse alliance and more like a bad episode of a scripted soap opera. We have Prime Minister Keir Starmer trying to play the role of the serious, rule-following adult in the room, while President Donald Trump is busy flipping the script and the table. The tension hit a fever pitch recently over the conflict in Iran, and Trump did not just open the door to criticism, he kicked it down and changed the locks. Trump, never one to let a grievance go unaired, took a massive swing at Starmer's timing, and after the UK hesitated on base usage, Trump effectively told the world that Britain was the friend who shows up to help you move only after the sofa is already up 3 flights of stairs and the pizza has been eaten. The exact quote that set London on fire was, "That's okay, Prime Minister Starmer. We don't need them any longer, but we will remember, we don't need people that join wars after they've already won," unquote. It was a masterclass in petty diplomacy, framing the UK not as a strategic partner, but as a latecomer trying to claim credit for a finished job. But the friction doesn't stop with timing. It has moved into the very territory the UK is trying to give away. We have to talk about the Chagos Islands. Just a few days ago, Trump delivered an extraordinary public rebuke of Starmer, calling the deal to hand over sovereignty to Mauritius an act of great stupidity. This is the ledger in action. Trump sees a strategic asset being handed over on a silver platter, and he is not going to stay quiet about it. For those of you not following the map, the Chagos Islands is the home of the US-UK base on Diego Garcia. It is a super base, the crown jewel of the Indian Ocean. Starmer's government is pushing through a 99-year lease deal, effectively paying Mauritius for land the UK used to own. And Trump's take, well, Prime Minister Starmer, he said, should not lose control for any reason. Leases are no good when it comes to countries, unquote. He even went as far as to call it a woke decision that puts the entire security of the region at risk. Now, the optics are a nightmare for 10 Downing Street, because while Starmer argues he is settling a colonial dispute to secure the base's future, Trump is painting him as a leader who is literally giving away the fort. It reinforces the narrative that the current UK leadership is playing checkers while the rest of the world is playing three-dimensional chess. When Trump calls it a stupid island in a press briefing, he isn't just insulting a piece of land. He is signaling that the special relationship does not include respecting your sovereign decisions if they look like surrenders. Now let's look at why that stupid island matters to the bigger board. Well, this is where the China strategy comes in. Trump doesn't play for one square. He repositions the entire map. For years, China has enjoyed a massive advantage by buying sanctioned oil from Iran and Venezuela at steep discounts. This fueled China's industrial growth on the cheap. And by squeezing Iran and securing these naval choke points, the U.S. is essentially cutting off China's discounted fuel line. The Panama Canal has been pulled back into the American sphere of influence, and now the battle for the Indian Ocean via Diego Garcia is heating up. See that? So individually, these are headlines. Together, they are a checkmate. And while the world stares at the explosions, The energy leverage is shifting back to the West. This exposes China's biggest vulnerability: energy dependency. It is a masterclass in using regional conflict to win a global economic war. And in that war, giving away an island like Chagos looks less like diplomacy and more like a tactical disaster. Did they realize that? Well, I don't know, but Trump is not letting them get away with that without them knowing how he feels about it. However, this winning comes with a price tag for America's allies, and in the UK, the friction has moved from the battlefield to the pharmacy. Starmer's government is being hammered for a deal that reportedly allows U.S. pharmaceutical giants to hike prices for the NHS. Critics are calling it the Trump tax. The deal was reportedly struck to avoid those 10% tariffs Trump loves to talk about. But it leaves the UK paying billions more for life-saving meds. The political optics are brutal. While Trump calls Starmer weak on the world stage, he's simultaneously leaning on the British taxpayer to pad the profits of Big Pharma. Starmer frames this as paying for innovation, but the public sees a shakedown. It is a transactional relationship where the special relationship feels more like a bill you can't afford to pay. And if the UK wants to stay in the party, it seems they have to pay for the top shelf drinks. But the fire isn't just coming from the outside. We're seeing a stunning fracture within the movement itself. When you have major influencers like Candace Owens, someone who has historically been a massive pillar of support, suddenly turning the dial to 11 and calling the president names that I won't even repeat in full, you know the vibe has shifted. She's out there telling troops to find a legal means to exit the military, claiming the current path is on behalf of satanic interests. It's a level of vitriol that, well, would have been unthinkable even 6 months ago. So why is this happening? It seems like there's a competition to see who can be the most awake to the supposed dark truth. When the political chess moves we talked about, like the China strategy, the energy leverage, don't happen fast enough or in the way people expect, some commentators fill that gap with the most extreme theories imaginable. By calling out the dear leader in such graphic terms, they're essentially trying to burn the whole house down. It creates a massive distraction from the actual geopolitical work being done, turning serious diplomacy into a theological horror movie. Is there any truth to these wild claims? Well, in the world of verified facts, no. There is zero evidence to support these explosive labels. What we are seeing, however, is the outrage economy in full effect. The more extreme the accusation, the more it circulates. But for the troops on the ground and diplomats at the table, this kind of rhetoric is more than just noise. It is a direct attempt to destabilize the very institutions that keep the country running. It's a civil war of words where the only winner is the person getting the most clicks. Personal chemistry matters in this game, and we've all seen the viral clips of Trump shushing Starmer at press conferences with a blunt, "That's enough." It's a public display of the new hierarchy. Then there's the Sadiq Khan factor. Trump treats the London mayor like a personal rival, and every time Starmer defends him, the rift with the White House grows wider. It's a clash of styles. Starmer is the lawyer with the spreadsheet, and Trump is the developer with a gut instinct. And they're speaking two entirely different languages in a room where the volume is always at 10. As we look at the internal noise, we have to talk about how people are actually processing this. There's a lot of talk about satanic narratives, but there's also a very grounded, middle-of-the-road perspective. Jeff Rausch put it perfectly recently when he laid out the things that he hates about Trump. The impulsive social media posts that feel like a 16-year-old with too much energy. The cockiness and the constant flexing. Rausch's take resonates because it captures the frustration of supporters who prefer facts over flexing. And yet, despite the annoyance with the style, the support remains firm. Why? Because as Rausch puts it, In a world of polished, rehearsed, teleprompter reading puppets, Trump is raw and Trump is blunt. He doesn't hide from the press, and most importantly, he does what he says he's going to do. That follow-through is a rare commodity in the world of politics. Millions of people are willing to endure the all-cap tweets because they see the results, a focus on the border, the economy, and energy. They are not brainwashed. They are looking at outcomes. They've chosen a leader who fights for the country, even if they wish he'd occasionally find the mute button. UK is now trying to make up for lost time by sending aircraft carriers to the Middle East. A massive "I'm sorry I'm late" gesture. But Trump's reaction was telling the world he doesn't need them is a sting that won't go away anytime soon. Being late to the party is a tag that sticks. It suggests the UK is a secondary player, a courtesy CC on the global email chain rather than a primary recipient. Is there a way back? Well, maybe, but it's going to involve the UK finding its own take on the world stage instead of just reacting to the headlines. Starmer is caught between a Europe that does not trust him and a U.S. president who thinks he's too slow. He's the man in the middle, and in 2026, the middle is a very dangerous place to stand. So we're going to end today with a thought from Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, "It is not fair to ask of others what you are not willing to do yourself," unquote. The White House has made its position clear. They feel the UK was not willing to do the heavy lifting when the pressure was on, and whether that's a fair critique or a tactical play, the special relationship is in the shop for major repairs. Now, speaking of tactical and fair play, here's some wisdom from Janet Elaine Parks, my friend on Facebook, where she said, "Trump is in the Epstein file, so therefore he's guilty," quote unquote. This narrative is so lazy, she said. Let's be very clear about what's happening online right now, because despite all the wins this administration is having, the deranged only, quote unquote, care about the victims, even though they were silent about the victims under Biden. But I digress. The narrative being pushed is this, she said. If Trump's name appears in the Epstein files, he's automatically guilty. And if you're a Trump supporter who says, "Show me the evidence, show me the real pictures that are not AI," you're suddenly accused of protecting a pedophile, right? That is reckless, she said, and that is dishonest. And it is completely detached from how our legal system works. Some of you need to hear this loud and clear, she said. Allegations are not convictions. Tips are not evidence. Names and documents are not proof of crimes. We live in a country that is supposed to operate on due process, not mob verdicts. And here's the part no one wants to admit. Trump has been investigated more than any modern political figure in American history. He's had impeachments, special counsels, grand juries, civil trials, federal investigations, state investigations. We've all seen it, right? Years of this. Now, here's the point. If there were verifiable, prosecutable evidence tying Trump to criminal activity in the Epstein case, does anyone seriously believe it would have been hidden for a decade? Be serious. Let's stop pretending the establishment protects him. Hollywood hates him. Most mainstream media outlets openly oppose him. The political class has tried to bury him repeatedly. The man has been a target for assassination people, and nobody is quietly shielding Trump. Nobody. The idea that there is some secret pro-Trump elite protection squad is fantasy. Now, are elites capable of protecting elites? Of course. No one is naive about power protecting power. But Trump has not been treated like a protected insider. He has been treated like a political enemy since 2015. So when Trump supporters say, "We want to see real documents, we want witnesses, we want verified, concrete evidence, we want the courts to do their job," that is not protecting a pedo. That is insisting on evidence before destroying someone's life and reputation. And if you can't be reasonable enough to understand that point of view, your reasoning and critical thinking skills are compromised by hate. And yes, we are fully aware that people hate him. Some people want him guilty so badly that they will accept any headline, any allegation, any unverified document or picture if it confirms their bias. Notice something else. There are many powerful names in Epstein-related materials, but the online rage machine laser focuses on one. Why? Because destroying Trump is their objective, not justice. If credible, factual, verifiable evidence ever proves criminal wrongdoing, then charge him, prosecute him, convict him in a court of law, throw him in jail for life. That's how this country is supposed to work. But smearing millions of voters as pedo protectors because they refuse to convict someone based on internal internet hysteria and pure hatred, that's not justice. That's political warfare. And Americans are getting tired of it. Faith, family, freedom, unquote. Thanks, Janet. That was excellent. So you have the stories, the Chagos Islands controversy, the China's strategy, and the internal fractures. Now it is your turn to do the digging. Was Starmer right to be cautious? Or did he lose the UK seat at the table? And is the chaos just a symptom of a world that has lost its mind, or a byproduct of a leader who is simply built differently? The party might be over, but the debate is just beginning. Hey, thanks for joining us for the Tsunami of Truth podcast. I'm Kristy Allen here on johnmichaelchambers.com.
The Federal Reserve is no more a government agency than Federal Express. The Federal Reserve is a corporation founded and run by international bankers.
The Global Financial Reset is not just another podcast or episode of pertinent current discussions concerning economic-related issues. It's also an ongoing educational workshop series.
Join me and my prominent guests every Wednesday live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on JMC Broadcasting's backup Rumble channel on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Sign up for JMC's free weekly war report, including notifications of when the Global Financial Reset show is published. The future is bright, and it belongs to us, not to the global elite.
You can survive and thrive this reset transition, but it takes action on your behalf. The Global Financial Reset Workshop Series gives you the tools to get out of the system with confidence.